Hi folks, I'm laucnh and welcome to the Artificers Guild, the home of all things Artifact. Patch 1.1 is out, so let's take a look at the patch notes and I'll share what I think the good, the bad, and the ugly of them are. First of all, we have an expansion to the Call to Arms featured event. There was worry in the community that the December 13th patch would be the end of this featured event, leaving people who wanted that constructed feel but who didn't own enough cards lacking. However, instead of removing it, Valve has actually added more decks to the list, as well as some new functionality. So let's take a look. The first new deck we get is Mono Blue. After its relative success in the first WePlay tournament in the hands of Luminous, as well as a number of popular streamers such as Mogwai playing these decks on Twitch, a Mono Blue edition seems like a great idea. The deck contains some fantastic control options with Luna, Zeus and Skywrath Mage, as well as some main deck cards like Annihilation and Conflag. It also has a way to close out the game thanks to the addition of 3 copies of Bolt of Damocles, the powerful 10 mana spell that deals 20 damage to an enemy tower. However, the deck will suffer in certain beefier matchups like Black-Red, and forces you to use a Path of the Wise, which isn't great, but overall I think it might be my new favourite of the event decks. The next new deck we have in the Call to Arms featured event is Dark Aggro, a mono black deck. The only other mono deck we saw at WePlay, but this one having much less success being used by someone who wasn't really involved in the artifact scene. However, mono black has seen a decent amount of play in regular constructed games. This deck in particular though suffers from just being a little bit too bad. With Lion, Debbie, Sniper and Winter Wyvern, 4 of your 5 heroes are super squishy. Not to mention you're forced into a Lion pick, which while he can work in some extreme cases, will not see much benefit here. This, as well as Winter Wyvern's curse not being incredibly powerful itself, will leave Dark Aggro players feeling pretty bad when they draw 3 mana drains and 3 Winter's Curse in their starting hand. The rest of the cards in this deck are alright, but for black it's largely the heroes that control the power level. We also saw the addition of a random mode. If you're happy playing any of the decks or you just want some variety in this queue, then pick up this random mode deck to get a random selection from all the featured event decks to play with. We also saw the addition of a leaderboard for the Call to Arms event. Finally, some sort of progression in the game. And while it is just attached to the featured event, you can now compete globally for recognition as the best artifact player. I'd imagine this will see a rise of people playing the event too, as well as with the new decks added, so if you haven't checked out the event yet, it is well worth a look. We did a video covering it previously if you need to catch up on what the event is. Moving on, we see a new feature called Open Tournaments. After the huge success of the Artifact Open Circuit, as well as some other tournaments being run by other organisers for the masses, Valve decided to take matters into their own hands, allowing people to queue up for short duration, automatically generated tournaments. On paper, this sounds fantastic. Valve have seen what people are spending their time doing in-game, and they want to try and enable it. But it does have a couple of drawbacks currently. First and foremost is this is for pauper constructed formats only currently. That means if you queue up for these, you can only use commons only constructed decks to take part. This should help more people experiment with constructed, but I can't help feel this will also drastically reduce the number of people who even queue up for this. Secondly, and a little closer to home, well, a lot closer to home really, this will now reduce the number of people going to community-led events. The Artifact Open Circuit succeeds only because of the sheer number of people it can attract. And while prize pools will always attract some people, the competitive tournament experience aspect has now gone, because the game itself now allows for that. This bugs me a little, as automated tournaments certainly weren't one of the key issues at the moment, as that is something that we could replicate for now. Allowing people to search for tournaments would allow us to do that even better. Meanwhile, Valve could focus on any number of other things, from balance to progression systems, or perhaps even ensuring they don't accidentally destroy the market by giving Artifact out for 20% of its listed price. Which they did fix, but I feel they could have avoided if they weren't spending time on other things. Anyway, that's my rant over. I will stress that this is all my opinion. It just hits a little too close to home with all of the hard work the Artifact Open Circuit managers have been putting in, just for us to be potentially replaced by an in-game system no one was asking for yet. The final addition to the tournaments is actually a new mode, and that I can get behind. Free for All lets you enter a 3-hour tournament to battle as many people as possible, the victor being the one to come away with the most wins. This mode sounds like a lot of fun, but it will just be that. Because if this was a competitive mode, everyone would just run aggro decks, so they could get wins faster, thus play more games, in a 3-hour window and potentially get more wins. I've got a 5-minute win deck that I will soon share, which is perfect for doing this. So you won't see the AOC running too many of these, but a few pop-up ones will certainly be fun. Moving on, we have the chat wheel. We have been begging for Valve to make the game more social from the start, and we had a match chat function back in the beta, so it was certainly possible. But it seems as though they've gone the route of chat wheels, like in Dota 2. In this case, you can click on any hero or creep and have them say one of their many voice lines that they would have otherwise just said if you played them. While I like this option, it does feel ever so slightly cheap to me, because you're just reusing voice lines that already played when you dropped the card. But if there are new voice lines in there, then I totally take that back, and great work, Valve. In addition to this, you can now invite your opponent to a Steam chat. This is near perfect. While something in-game would have been nicer, at least being able to communicate and tell them that you loved what they did last turn, or even taunt them a little, is a fantastic addition. Let's face it, the Artifact community is a lot older, wiser, and more mature than many other games. We aren't going to start screaming at each other through this. And even if that does happen, there is a mute function. You can choose to block any messages from non-friends, or just choose to mute individuals if you happen to come across a particularly salty player. The next new addition is the bot Gauntlet. This allows you to play against bots with the deck of wheels, and against increasingly more difficult AI opponents, using a variety of 24 bot decks. The idea behind this is to let you more fully test your decks before taking them out for a spin, which I do like the premise of. Many people will not be confident in their deck ideas to take them straight out. However, bot matches are more used to test the feel of your deck, rather than how strong it is. Is the curve alright? Does it have answers at every stage of the game, etc. There is only so much a bot match can tell you about your deck, and no one has time to play 24 bot matches to test a deck. Personally, I can't see this function being used by anyone outside of your casual player who just wants to fight bots, as everyone else will go to the casual queues to continue their testing, and then on into expert. Just when things weren't looking too hot for the patch, and they were going to be ending on a sour note, they got something I feel very strongly about, very right. I already knew this was coming as I retweeted it out about a week ago, but Valve are finally bringing colorblind support to their game. Some of my OG followers might know this more so than newer folk, but I am very colorblind myself. I suffer from protanopia, which in layman's terms means a lot of red is missing from the world for me. The reverse is deuteranopia, or however you say that, where you can't see green. The latter made the blue-green cards difficult to discern. But being red deficient as I am, I couldn't tell the difference between the red and black cards at a glance. Before I knew all of the cards by name, and it was obvious what colour they were, I made plenty of blunders calling cards the wrong colour. I think I even called Bloodseeker a red hero after a picture from PAX showed him being dazzled in sunlight. My point is, this was a real problem, and no doubt stopped some people from getting into the game. 1 in 10 men suffer from some sort of colourblindness, and while they're not all as serious as mine, it takes away from the game. So thank you Valve for adding this. You've done it perfectly too, with the option to distort the colour of cards, or just have a suit display, having an icon that tells us what card is what colour. Personally, suits are the way forward for me. I'm not fully colourblind, so a colour change makes half of the game look rubbish, while half of the game is easier for me to see. So again, thank you, I'll be taking up some suits. So what do I think of the patch notes? This final point saves Valve on my account. It's something I struggle with a lot in a huge number of games. But bot gauntlets, a chat wheel of voice lines we've already heard, and a tournament system that might actually take away something from the community? This update's good for your casual player, for sure, but this stings a bit for us. But a step in any direction is better than nothing, so good work in putting the patch out, and hopefully next time we get some real progression and some helpful tools for the community. Sorry for being a bit of a downer today folks, but I don't believe in flat out lying to you guys. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoy the content, feel free to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel out. I'm Divok of the Artificers Guild, and I will see you next time.